So we have, for several weeks, been looking at near-death experiences and talking about how they could relate to what the Bible teaches and about our own lives. And I've been very honest about this. Up until a short time ago, I just didn't really care. It didn't matter to me. I didn't care what people said about near-death experiences because I didn't think there was any real relevance to our Christian faith. And then I've told the story in this series about taking a 11-hour car ride, and I listened to this entire book on Audible, and it was an amazing experience to go through it. By the way, we still have a couple of copies left on the back counter. If you want to get this book, we have a couple. We're giving this away during this series. So it was amazing. And one of the things that there were so many things that struck me, but one of the things that struck me the most was how many verifiable incidents there are attached to the subject of a near-death experience. And I just never thought about it. So one of the ones that was just amazing, and every week I've given you another one, so here's another one. So there was a young girl named Katie. She was 9 years old. She drowned in her backyard pool. They pulled her out, did CPR, rushed her to the hospital. At the hospital, they were finally able to get her heart going again, but she was on an artificial lung to keep her breathing. She had swelling in her brain, massive swelling in her brain. There was only a 10% chance she would survive. She was in a coma for 3 days. And then she woke up, and she was fine. And then she started telling stories of her spirit leaving her body. And she described who the doctors were that performed the resuscitation attempts on her in the emergency room. No way she could have known that, right? And by the way, this was all, the doctors were so amazed by this, they documented it and published it in a peer-reviewed research project. So part of what is overwhelming is how many doctors talk about this. And there are doctors that write books about this because they can't explain it any other way. But the most amazing part of Katie's story was she said an angel came to her and said, "Would you like to see your family?" Because she was in her coma for 3 days. And so she said, sure, like any little girl would, right? And so the angel took her to her home because her family wasn't at the hospital the entire 3 days while she was in the coma. And she got to watch and see where each member of her family was. She knew, and she told everybody, "I saw you," to her sister, "listening in your room to this song on the radio." And it was the song. And then she said to her mom, "I saw you in the kitchen and you were making this meal." And she described the meal that her mom was making. And then, "Dad, you were here," and she described all of these elements. And then the angel took her to meet with Jesus in heaven. So, I mean, obviously, you hear enough of these stories, and it's like, that can't happen by accident. And again, why would doctors lie? And why would a 9-year-old girl lie? I mean, they're just, at a certain point, it just becomes overwhelming. And it really made me stop and really rethink this whole subject of life after death and near-death experiences and how they fit into our faith. And I've really been challenging you each week to say, what if we're thinking wrong about life and death and what comes next and what's real and what's important? And what if what we're doing here matters more than we have ever imagined? And I've been asking you to think about these things every single week. And today, I want to go back to something I only touched on in week 1. I want to talk about what will this experience be like, because it's coming for us, right? The mortality rate in America is still 100%. So we're all racing towards something. And typically, when you ask the average American what it's going to be like, this is the image we have in mind, right? Wish I had brought a magazine, right? And this is the image that is portrayed in American society of heaven. Sitting on a cloud with some wings, and you're kind of bored, right? It's harps and clouds and wings and floating and doing nothing in one long worship service, and in one word, it's boring. And the amazing thing is, if you do what I did and you take 11 hours of this in, nobody uses the word boring. Nobody. We have trivialized something that is supernatural and really beyond description, but never boring. So what I want to do today, as we continue our series called Kingdom Come, I want to talk to you about this. Why would anyone even want to go to heaven? Well, if it's just sitting on a cloud like that poor guy, then obviously not. But what if it's nothing like that? So I want to ask you to open up your program. Inside you'll find these notes. Grab your notes and a pen. Welcome to those of you who are watching online. Love the fact that we hear from those of you who are watching online. If you go to our website at Peniel Church Life, you can always get our notes too and follow along. So here we go. 3 things. We're getting through all 3 of them today. And I want to do this a little bit different. I want to talk about it from the point of 3 separate questions. What will we see is the first one. What will we see? And below it, I put another question, and it's a question I want you to think about, and how would you answer this question today? And the question is, where does God live today? You ever think about where God is right now? Now, God is omnipresent, we know that, so the theological word is omnipresent. He's everywhere at once, right? He's not limited by time and space. Our body's limited. I can be here, but I can't be here and at a restaurant in Mineral Point eating breakfast. I can't be both. But God's not limited by time and space. He's omnipresent, so he can be everywhere. But where is he actually living? So it says that Jesus, when he rose again at the stoning of Stephen, he said he saw heavens opened, and he saw Jesus, if I remember right, seated at the right hand of the Father. So where? On a cloud? Was he just floating on a cloud? Is that where he is? Well, when you look at the Bible, you see something that we don't talk a lot about in American Christianity, and I really want you to look at this with me today. The writer of Hebrews, talking about Christian people who had people of faith before Jesus. And they endured some really difficult things, and he said, here's why they did it. He said, instead, these people were longing for a better country, the one better than what we live in, a heavenly one. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared look at those last words, a city for them. It is a city. God today is in a city. You ever think about that? Probably not. Probably not. By the way, if you want to look at that, Hebrews talks multiple times about the city of God, the city of God, the city of God. Matter of fact, it's not the only book of the Bible. The very last book of the Bible called Revelation, the Revelation of John, he gets to see what the future is going to be like. God gives him a glimpse into it. And he says this, in Revelation 21, the second to the last chapter in the Bible, he said, I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride beautifully dressed for her husband. So repeatedly, it talks about God living in a city, this holy city, sometimes referred to as the New Jerusalem. And so you hear that and you think, okay, so he lives today in a city. Well, if you read the book of Revelation, that chapter, Revelation 21, and you start to understand where God lives today, it's not like he lives in a city like Rui or Madison or New York. Here's the description you read in Revelation 21. It is a perfect cube. The dimensions of it are a perfect cube. It is 1,380 miles in every direction. It's a massive city, and I'll give you some scope for that, and just to understand how big this is. The walls around it are 216 feet thick. There are 12 gates with 12 angels in charge of each gate. This is just some of the description. So to put it in perspective, this is somewhat like what it would be compared to the country, compared to America. The city in its descriptions are roughly equivalent to it would cover 2/3 of the continental United States of America. That's how big this city is. We can't grasp a city this big. So it is enormous. It would stretch from Mexico to Canada and cover 2/3 of the entire country. That's a big city. And it has so many things inside of it. So what I want to do is I want to show you some of the things. And by the way, the interesting thing about this, and I mentioned this in one of the weeks, is when we talk and when we interview people who have near-death experiences around the world who've never even read the book of Revelation, they talk about seeing a city. Talk about seeing a city. And over again, you hear these same kind of stories, regardless of where you are in the world. So let me show you some of the examples from these people who've had these experiences.
So in your book, you describe flying into, is it the New Jerusalem? What is it? And describe the beauty and what you saw.
I get this incredible airborne view, a descending, slowing down airborne view of the city of gold. And it's a city that's walled. Over the city were majestic mountains that were as gorgeous as any that could be ever seen. There's water, there are animals. Inside the city, I could see, we'll start from foreground to back, if you like. I could see the townships, as I call them, homes that people lived in, homes that were likely to be created for the people of heaven. Interestingly enough, they struck me by not so much the size as the architecture. I know nothing about architecture at all. I still don't. But I recognized that there was something divine about the architecture of the buildings. There were small, what we would call like condos here. There were single family residences that we would call here. There were huge palaces. And I could see that, but
And this is all inside the wall?
on the other side of
around-
the wall. I saw none of this.
And how big is this city? I mean, can you tell?
I could not tell, other than it was beyond the horizon both directions. There's countryside inside, so that it's gorgeous, beautiful, all of the adjectives times 1,000.
Well, the gate is quite large. The gate itself, the entrance is small, and the wall is very thick, but you can actually see through it. So I'm looking over these people, and I can see through it. And there appears to be this massive boulevard that really kind of bisects the city, and it is made of gold. But gold that is so pure you can see through it. It's
What do you mean?
well, you can actually see through the gold. It's gold and it's visible and tangible, but it is pure. Now, we can't imagine that here because gold on earth is one of the densest metals we have. But in heaven, it's so pure you can see through it. So you can see under it. You can see even the roots of trees and things like that. There are trees there. In fact, the tree of life is there. That we were not able to eat of here, we can eat of it there.
And you're looking through.
I'm looking at the tree. I'm looking at the gates. I'm looking through the gates. I'm looking down the street. There is a river that flows from this throne or this hill that's high and lifted up. And I know that's the river of life because we're told that it flows from the throne of God. So many of the things that we know and enjoy and love here are visible there as well. I would say this, heaven's never going to be less than this. It's always going to be more.
Yeah.
So whatever you imagine here that is meaningful to you, the relationships, the beauty, and let's face it, there's some glorious places on earth, but there should be because God created it. This is His place. So heaven's not going to be less than that. It's going to be more than that. There are structures on both sides of the city. They look like mansions to me. I mean, they're glorious places for people to dwell. So it's just an incredibly awesome, overwhelming, bustling place. It's not a boring place. There aren't any cherubs sitting around on clouds playing harps. This is an active, exciting, thrilling place. And at this magnificent gate, a very large wall, very thick wall, and there's a gate, and it looks like the inside of an oyster. It's a gate made of pearl, really quite dazzling, very brilliant, very beautiful. It almost looks like it's pulsating with life, except I know it's the light reflecting off the gate that makes it look that way.
So, is that what you pictured? I mean, so this is just part of the picture of it. So, and you hear these kind of descriptions over and over again. But he says something I think is profound. He says, heaven will not be less than what we experience on earth. And I think that's really important because I think many Christians in America think it's going to be less than. I mean, when you draw a picture of heaven and it's, boredom and clouds and floating around and doing nothing, then we're picturing it as less than. So I want to reverse questions 3 and 2 today. So I want to switch it. So go to 3, and I want to talk about this one. What will we do there? And when I was prepping this, I came across another pastor who was talking about this subject, and he was talking about something. He made me think about this in a new way, and I thought it was really good, so I'm going to share his idea with you. He asked the question to his church. He said, what do you love about life on earth? So think about that. What do you love? I mean, we can all talk about what we don't like, but what do you love about life on earth? What do you love? And again, like that man said, it's not less than, it's more. So he said, well, some of you love nature, right? Some of you love being out in nature. I mean, it brings you such joy to be outside in nature. Some of you, you just absolutely love it. You love beaches or mountains or lakes or water, and all of those things, by the way, they're present in heaven. They're present in heaven. So some of you just love those things. Like my wife's happy place is on the water, right? Put her on the water. Good news, there's water in heaven. So you'll be in your happy place, right? For some, it's animals. Do you have people in your life who treat their animals like family? Right? Anyone come to mind? Right? Some people just love their animals, and animals are heaven. And that's mentioned repeatedly in the Bible, over and over again. And some of these people come back and they talk about every kind of animal, including pets. Good news. Pets are there. How about play? Some of you like playing. I'm just a big kid, and playing is fun and awesome. And by the way, who made play? Who made fun? Did we make that up? No. We were created in the image of God. One of the fascinating things, if you read that book, is over and over again, these people talk about Jesus, and they talk about his sense of humor and his laughter. How many of you picture God like that? That it'll be fun to hang out with him. I mean, this is him. And then relationships and creativity and invention and learning. One of the men talks about seeing this enormous library. Yes. Won't that be awesome? So that's where I'll go. I want to go to the library. And you can learn, and there will be learning and creativity and delight. I recently had an opportunity I was at this conference, and these vendors took several of us out to eat at a Michelin restaurant. Do you know what that is? Michelin star? It's like the best of the best of the best. I have never eaten food like that in my whole life. I mean, it was incredible, and it was delight. And they talk about that's nothing compared to what you eat in heaven and the delight. So some of you are foodies. Some of you are like, food brings me happiness. Well, the food in heaven will not be less. The food in heaven will be more. It's more, and healing, and being fully known. And on we go. We know there's play and creativity and things like that. We know that the Packers will be in heaven because God put his initial on the helmet, so we know that that's there. That's fun. And so on they talk about it, and when they try and describe it to us as humans, I mean, think about how hard this must be. If we went back in time and we went to someone in the Amazon jungle in the 3,000 years ago, and we could get a time machine and pull them out and drop them in New York City, and let them spend a week in New York City, in seeing skyscrapers and cars and planes and everything else, and cell phones and TVs and everything else, and then put them back in that time machine, bring them back 3,000 years ago, drop them in the jungle, and have them try and describe what it's like. How many words are they going to have to describe accurately what's actually they've experienced? That's what these people try and say. They say over and over again, the words are just not adequate. But they use things like this. They say, I felt a love so great, so complete that I began to cry. I felt more love than I've ever felt on earth. Everything was vibrant, alive, and more real than anything here. By the way, that's one of the most repeated phrases right there. More real. This, when they come back, feels like the fake world. That's the real world. I felt a joy that I had never known before. I felt total joy, and I never wanted to leave. So, you hear boredom in any of this? Never boredom. Never. So, is that how you picture what is to come? And do you picture it as more than here or less than here? Jesus was really clear about how much more it is. So then, and this is the big one. This is the big one. Number 2, who will we meet? So this is, I had them backwards, 2 and 3. So who will we meet? In one series, as his pastor was doing, he asked his church, hey, what questions do you have about heaven and life? And he said the number one question that people wanted to know is, will I see people I know in heaven? How will the relationships work in heaven? And again, take a look. This is, to me, one of the most important reasons why becoming a disciple of Jesus, it just needs to be a priority. It's because so many positive things come into your life when you have this. Paul wrote to the Thessalonian church, he said, brothers and sisters, we do not want you to be uninformed about those who sleep in death, so that you do not grieve like the rest of mankind who have no hope. I don't know if you've ever attended the funeral. I've done lots and lots of funerals in my lifetime. I've conducted lots and lots. I did a funeral once, like the first, it was like the, I don't know, it was one of the early ones I did when I was a young pastor. And there were 5 people in attendance. 5 people. So this person had not lived a very nice life and not lived a very good life, and nobody cared that he was dead. And it was sad. It was incredibly sad. And there are times when you know the person lived for this world, lived for themselves, very materialistic, and then they die, and it's like, that's what he's saying. There are people, when they die, you grieve because there's no hope for them, and there's always hope for us because we never know if somebody heard about Jesus along the way. But he says, then he turns the corner and says, but we believe that Jesus died and rose again, and so we believe that God will bring with Jesus those who have fallen asleep in him. So we don't grieve like those without hope. When somebody who believes in Jesus dies, then we believe what Jesus said to the thief on the cross, today you'll be with me in paradise. You'll be with me in paradise today. And so we don't grieve like those without hope. We always have hope because we know what Jesus has said, that there is reunion and you're back with people that you love. So one of the most amazing stories I've ever read, and if you want to read another book related to this, go track down this man. His name is Don Piper. You actually saw a little clip from him just a moment ago. You're going to see him again. This was the bridge that Don Piper was on in 1989. 1989, he was a pastor. He was on his way to lead a Bible study at church. He was crossing this bridge when a semi-truck crossed the median and hit him head on. He was driving a Ford Escort. So semi-truck versus, some of you remember Ford Escorts? Yeah, you remember that? He didn't stand a chance. He was pronounced dead at the scene. His body suffered catastrophic injuries. Both his legs were crushed. One was nearly completely cut off. His left arm was torn apart. His chest was impaled by the steering wheel. He had severe brain damage. He died. But after he'd been in the car for 90 minutes, a pastor came along, saw the accident, he asked the EMTs, can I go up and just pray? And they said, of course. He went and prayed, and Don moved in answer to the prayer. And Don had he faced 13 months of hospitalization, 34 surgeries, years of rehabilitation, but he started talking about what he saw. And he wrote a book about it. You can read this book. If you like what we're talking about and you want to read a book that will just impact you as powerfully, get this book, 90 Minutes in Heaven. It was a New York Times bestseller for 5 years. This says 4 million. It actually sold 6 million copies. And he talks about, and to me, the part of all this that means the most is not just the connection with Jesus and God, but the reconnection with people that you love. And here's how he describes it, and I want to let him tell you this, because take a look at this.
These are real people you knew. Who'd you see? What'd they look like?
Yeah, it started with my grandfather. He was standing there at the gate facing me, and he looked great. I mean, last time I saw him, he did not look great. He had a heart attack and died. I was with him when he had the heart attack. And it was just heartbreaking to be with him and watch him die, pass away. Very close to him. I tell people all the time, I've broken virtually every bone in my body, and it hurt, but nothing hurts like a broken heart. And when he died, it broke my heart. A lot of you have a broken heart. I've met a lot today who are struggling with that. Met a lady just now, husband died 3 days ago. So a lot of you have broken hearts. Well, I understand what that feels, but now I'm at the gate, and here's my grandfather standing in front of me, and he looks really, really good. If you want to look really, really good, heaven is where you want to be. I mean, you look nice now, but he was even missing, because of his life of very hard labor, he was missing 3 fingers on one hand and 2 on the other. And he reached out to me and spoke verbally, and he said, "Welcome home, Donnie." Those were his words to me. That's what he used to call me here on earth, Donnie. And I looked out at the hands that used to hold me when I was a little boy, and all of his fingers were there. I'd never seen them before. He was really kind of ageless. He was perfect, fully recognizable as himself, but in a beautiful and perfect kind of way. He obviously knew I was coming. Everybody did. You don't sneak up on heaven. Everybody up there knows it's coming. Well, of course they do, because the Bible says when we give our heart to Jesus, when we trust Christ as Savior, our name is automatically inscribed on a registration book up there called the Book of Life, the actual Lamb's Book of Life. So you want your name in this book, and we're taking reservations this afternoon. I'm serious. I mean, if you can get killed on the way to church to teach a Bible study, you can get killed at any moment. This is urgent. I was just 38. So here's Papa. My great-grandmother was beside him. She was a victim of osteoporosis. She was all slumped over in this life. I know it must have been painful. I never heard her complain about it. She wasn't missing fingers like Papa. She was missing teeth. She didn't have any teeth. Well, she had some, but they were what she called store-bought teeth. They were dentures. She did not like them. She did not wear them often, except to church on Sunday mornings. My great-grandmother, Hattie, smiled at me. She was a good 6 inches taller at the gates of heaven because she was standing upright. And of course, the most glorious thing happened when she saw me. She smiled at me, and it was the first time I ever saw her real smile. So everybody there was perfect. There's only one person in heaven with scars, and that's Jesus Christ, to remind us of how we got there. But none of those other people. You should have seen me back on earth. I mean, I look like I fell in a farm implement from the neck down. I've had 34 major surgeries to put me back together. I was told I would never walk again. If they were able to reattach the leg, I was told that this arm would just hang by my side if they were able to put it back on. But this is the arm, and this is my leg. So I believe God is still in the miracle business. But in heaven, I had no scars on me. I was perfect. You won't either, inside or out.
Well, what was that like? What did you feel like in your body? What did it feel like? You said your grandfather ended up hugging you. What does that feel like?
Unspeakable joy. There really aren't any words for it. One of the most frustrating things about talking about heaven is we don't have earthly words to do it justice. But it was a great reunion. Papa knew I was coming. He embraced me. What a warm embrace that was. I mean, literally the last time I saw him, he was in a coffin. And we were all devastated. Now he's perfect and blissful and joyful. And all these people, aunts, uncles, some friends from high school who had died in tragic accidents themselves were over here to the side of me. My next door neighbor, Miss Norris, was over here. There were teachers there of a wide variety of people, such a variety that I was thinking to myself when I saw them, they didn't even know each other back here on earth. What would have brought them together to meet me at the gate? And I know, I had several years to lay in a hospital bed to think about it. They all helped me get there. These are the people who took me to church when I was a little boy and didn't have any other way to go because my parents didn't go to church. Somebody had to take me. Miss Norris took me.
Your next
Mike, my friend from high school that was killed when he was 18, he took me to church because I didn't have a driver's license yet. But he'd been going since he was a little boy, and he wanted to make sure I got to go too. They met me at the gates. These are people who gave me Bibles. These are people who told me, well, they lived a Christian life in front of me, so I knew how that life was supposed to be lived. So they influenced me for Christ. So I'm laying there in the hospital bed when I finally got to the point where I could think, and I thought to myself, these are the people who helped me get there. And then I asked the question that I've asked everybody since, who are you going to greet? Who's going to be there because of you?
So there are two questions on that. Who are you going to see? And who are you looking forward to seeing? So that's the key to the whole thing for us as Christians. We do not grieve like those without hope. We do not grieve like those without hope. It doesn't mean we don't grieve. We grieve. So one of the things that this helps me with so much right now is yesterday, my wife and I drove up to Eau Claire because my mom and dad were celebrating their 60th wedding anniversary. 60 years. And so this was, them just 60 years ago. It was a moment ago, right? They were in a church in Madison getting married, and now 60 years has flown by. And so a lot of family and friends and people from their church were there, and we were celebrating. But my mom has Alzheimer's, and pretty advanced, and she really had no clue what was happening. And so, but my mom, when in 1984, she and I both became Christians right around the same time, and she's had a tremendous influence on my life spiritually, tremendous. She was just ahead of me in the learning curve, so she would learn things about Jesus, and she'd say to me, "Did you know this?" And I didn't know that. I knew nothing. And so she was telling me all the time, and she was always trying to help me and influence me spiritually. Matter of fact, one of the first things that we learned as new Christians is that there's something called blasphemy. It's when you take the Lord's name in vain. Well, we didn't know that was a problem. And all of a sudden we're learning this, and we're like, oh, we can't say his name when we, get mad and trip, or, and we got to stop this. And so my mom helped me. She said, Brian, stop that. If you do it again, I'm going to give you a spoonful of cod liver oil every time you do it. And so the next day I did it, and I got a spoonful of cod liver oil. Some of you had no idea what that even is. Just listen to the words. Cod liver oil. I was cured instantly. One spoonful, and I was cured. And that may not sound like a great story, but with my mom and I, there was so much that we just learned together about Jesus, and she modeled Christianity in front of me. And everyone who has lost someone to Alzheimer's, you know the pain of that. You know how awful that is. But I don't grieve like one without hope. Because even though she is still physically here, she's not here, but the reality is, she'll meet me. And she'll be there for me. And I will see my mom as, I grew up with her. I know what it's like, and I will see her, and she will greet me, and we'll be together again. And that's the thing. And it's not just the reunion aspect of it that makes it so important. He asks a profound question. All those people were waiting for him. They were a part of his spiritual journey. And then he asks the question, who will you be waiting for, because you've been a part of their spiritual journey? So there are two real things I want you to think about as we finish up today. For those of you who say, yes, Jesus is everything to me. This is really important to me. Who will be there because of you? His question is really important. His question is really important. I'm asking you to think about it. Do you ever invite anyone to church? Do you ever talk about your faith? Do you ever invite somebody to even listen to one of our messages online? Is there ever a time when you are helping other people make a decision about Jesus? So I'm asking you to think about that. I'm only going to have that experience with my mom because somebody helped her along the way, and then they helped me along the way. And we're here to help others see just how amazing Jesus is. But for those of you who are skeptical about faith issues, and maybe some of you are watching online and you're like, I don't even know if I believe any of this stuff, or maybe some of you here are still processing your faith questions, do you understand that we are all racing towards something? It's like he said, there's no guarantee of time on earth. Literally, he was 38 years old on the way to lead a Bible study. That 9-year-old was just going to swim in her backyard pool. We have no guarantee of life. All of us know that. We are racing towards something, and do you know that real life is available, and not just when you die, but here now, through Jesus. And this life is available because of the only person in heaven who's going to have scars. Because of Jesus. He took our death on the cross, our payment. The unloving things I've brought into this world, he paid for all of them and for all of us, so that we could be forgiven and have a new life with him now. Let me have you bow your heads as we finish. For some of you, you've never made the decision to ask Jesus to forgive you, to let him not just save you, but to be the leader of your life. He just loves you. He's been, in Psalm 23, he's been pursuing you with love every day of your life, because he loves you beyond any words I will ever be able to say. Because you matter so, so much to him. And his every thought towards you is love. And if you will let this God of love in, then he will begin his work of changing you from the inside out, because he just loves you. And if you want this, with your head bowed, you can say, Jesus, today is the day. I make my decision today. I'm going to put my trust in you. I know that I have done things that are wrong. I know it. And I've heard that you got those scars on a cross paying my debt. So please forgive me. I'm asking you to become the leader of my life today. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this service today. We hope as a church and pray that this was something that really helps connect you deeper to Jesus. That's what we're all about as a church. If you need to communicate with us, if you go online to penuelchurchlife.com, in the upper right-hand corner is a box that says, I said yes to Jesus. It also says, please pray for me. Just click on that, and it'll take you to a place where you can communicate with us as a church. So if you ever want any of the resources we mentioned in a service, go there and let us know. We'll gladly send them to you. Or if you made a decision to say yes to Jesus, or you have a prayer request, just let us know. And we're always glad to hear from the people who are watching online. And if we can continue to help you grow in your faith in any way, then we want to do that. So again, thank you. And our prayer is that you continue to grow and connect and find the true life that Jesus Christ is offering.